Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC Fight Night Volkov versus Aspinall. I'm going to speed through these because there's nothing super big to talk about. Quite niggle, a couple niggles here and there, but nothing big to talk about. No injustices. Nobody got robbed. Someone almost got robbed, but but not really that deep. I'm going to go through these quickly. A lot of finishes tonight, but we're just going to skip straight to the honorable mentions. First honorable mention is McKenna versus Reed. I scored it 30-27 for Reed. The last round was kind of close. You could kind of toss it either way. You could 29-28 at the most if you wanted to put it that way, but I had it 30-27 for Reed. Derek Clearly. We'll get to him in a second. Anders Olsen had it 29-28 for Reed, 29-28 for Clemens Werner. Also, both of them giving a 10-9 to McKenna in the last round. Derek Clearly, arguably, had the worst scorecard tonight, 30-27. The other way is ridiculous. I'll explain why in a second. In the first round, McKenna was outstruck. Despite getting a takedown at the very end, in the very final seconds, it wasn't enough. It absolutely wasn't enough. There's no way you could argue that for her. She got a takedown, a couple shots. Reed was very active on the bottom. It kind of nullified her shots, and she got up towards the end and continued to land. So, round one for Reed, that's pretty easy. Round two, again, same thing. Reed outstruck McKenna. McKenna got a takedown at the very end, like closing seconds. Irrelevant takedown, doesn't matter. She's up. Last round, you can kind of split it either way. It depends on how you look at it. Reed outstruck McKenna on the feet, and McKenna got a takedown with about 2 minutes of ground and pound. So that third round is kind of structured in a way where you could toss it up to either person. But I felt as though, the reason why I scored it for Reed is I felt as though Reed did more than McKenna did on the ground. I felt Reed did more on the feet and did enough on the ground to where McKenna didn't win the round. So honorable mention there to Derek Clearly, who gave a 30-27. A 30-27 is wild. This shouldn't have been a split decision. I was surprised when I heard 30-27. I almost punched my computer screen. But yeah, there's that. Then we have next honorable mention, Shore versus Valiev. I had this originally I had this 29-28 for Valiev. And then I'll read the judges' scorecards and I'll get back to me, obviously. Mark Collette, David Letheby, and I'll get to Vito. And those two had it 29-28 for Shore, with them giving a 10-9 to Shore in the last two rounds. And then Vito Letheby gives the last two rounds to Shore, but the last round he gives a 10-8. Don't really like the 10-8. That's whatever. But the fight goes to Shore. Now, I originally scored it for Valiev. I gave Valiev the first round and the second round. Now, when the decision was read, my head wasn't feeling that though it was he had gotten robbed. But I went back to watch the second round, and I'll just say maybe I wasn't watching it correctly. The description I wrote down for the second round was it was close on the feet, but Valiev had two takedowns to Shore's one. Now, the thing that I had missed probably the first time watching it was all three takedowns that were done in the second round. There were just takedowns. There was no action otherwise. All three takedowns, and so I should have kept that in the noggin. And on second watch, same thing on the feet, no ground and pound on the bottom for all three, no ground and pound at all for all three takedowns, but Shore had outstruck him on the feet enough to where nothing happened on any of those takedowns to where Shore wins that round fairly comfortably. He outstruck him a bit. I'd say maybe he was probably 8 strikes, maybe 6 to 8 strikes up. So that was my fault. Honorable mention to me. I probably should have gotten that on the first time, but maybe I just gotten a little stuck on the fact that Valiev had gotten one more takedown than he did. So yeah, honorable mention to me. That's my fault on that one. Next honorable mention. These are just kind of slight niggles, nothing crazy. McCann versus Carolina. That fight ended in a KO. I'll talk about that at the very end. I gave a 10-9 for McCann in the first, and then a 10-9 for Carolina in the second. I put a close marker. I think you can kind of argue the second for either person. In that second round, in that second round, Carolina outstruck McCann 100% in that second round. But McCann got 2 takedowns. She didn't really do anything with the takedowns, but there were 2 big takedowns. And Carolina didn't outstrike her heavy. So you can kind of, in my opinion, it depends on what you like there. Then, you could argue it for either person. But I gave it to Carolina because, again, McCann did nothing with those takedowns. The judges, on the other hand, Ben Cartledge, Ahmed Karichi, and Clemens Werner. Well, except for Clemens, I'll get to him in a second. Both of those judges gave it 2 10-9s in the first 2 rounds for McCann. And the same with Clemens, but in the first he gave a 10-8. I don't like that 10-8. I really don't. I see what I get it. She outstruck her pretty badly, but I personally don't like the 10-8. I won't give an honorable mention, but I don't like the 10-8. So there's that. And then last honorable mention is Nelson versus Soto. Or Sato, excuse me. Nelson versus Sato. I have it 30-27. And David Letheby, Anders Olsen, and Paul Sutherland, they have it 30-26. They gave it 10-8 in that last round. I'm not mad at the 10-8. I didn't give it 10-8, but I'm not mad at it. I can see why they gave it. I think in that all 3 rounds, the last 2 rounds resemble each other very well. The difference in that last round, though, is I think Nelson was just hitting. He just kept hitting longer. So I can see how they gave a 10-8, and Sato was kind of shelling up a lot more in that 3rd round. So I can see how they gave it 10-8 in that one. But anyways, that's all I have. I have to go. But great night of fights. A lot of finishes. Most of the English fighters won. And even when I was watching this, the thing that really struck out to me was McCann's knockout is probably the best female knockout in UFC history, period. I was racking my brain. I was like, okay, what are the last few knockouts I've seen? Rose versus Wei Li. No. Rose versus Joanna the first time. Maybe no. Then I was trying to do it without looking it up. So then I was like, okay, Nunes versus Cyborg, right? It's up. Yeah, it's close, man. It's close. But in terms of like style and how it looks, it has to be. I don't know. You'd have to poll it. You'd have to poll it because I think you could get into a dead heat on that. But for me, recency bias, I don't care. McCann's knockout is just sparkling. It was just beautiful. It was beautiful. Everything about it was just beautiful. And and this knockout was just way better. The way Carolina was just flattened, sadly. But it is what it is. Yeah. So other than that, that's all I got. Just slight little niggles. I fucked up on one of my scorecards. I wish I had that better, but I'll work on that one. It was, that round was really weird. But again, no excuses. I fucked up on that round. Thank you for listening, and God bless.